All right. Welcome, Facebook Live. We have our good friend, Mr. Josh Malerman. If you're not familiar with who Josh Malerman is, you will after this podcast episode. He is the author of Birdbox. Oh, great. That was good.
On a win.
Wow. Was that you or was that my good friend Justin?
I added some whistles in there.
Wow, that was a two of you together? Yeah, you guys may want to go into business.
Improv.
Oh, my goodness. Josh, welcome to Cool Nerds Unite.
Thanks. Awesome.
So, Josh, can you tell the listening audience, or the audience in general, where are you from exactly?
I grew up in West Bloomfield, but that feels, that feels like 10 people ago by now, man. I grew up there. That was, I kind of see this all as that was like pre-art. I was like captain of the track team. I wasn't the best runner, but I was good at that kind of thing or something. But I ran cross country and track, and my dad's an accountant, and I used to imagine like, oh, one day I'll be working in Dad's office, these things. And then I had something around age 19 when I was at Michigan State. I went to state for college, and then I had what I call some sort of like psychotic break. Something happened there where I realized one night I was just kind of hanging out, and it struck me that I literally could do whatever I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And it really, it wasn't just like a fleeting realization, though. It was this, like I got punched with it or something. And I called my mom all like nervous, and I was like, I can literally do anything, like anything, And she's like, oh yeah, go get him, honey,
So your mom has already has set in motion your path.
Would you say she was like your inspiration?
Yeah, inspiration.
Well, she paints and that sort of thing. That's the only really like artistic like tendril I can find in my past at all is her doing that. But then once you get serious about writing and you start writing novels and all this sort of thing, then you kind of start to, then when you look back in your childhood, you're like, oh, I see like signs of this coming. I had like, I remember the first book I read and how excited I was, and there was this thing called Pine Tree Books, which was a contest to see who could read the most books in like the area, right? And I want to be the one who reads the most and all that. So I see like signs of that. And in high school, I played in this like travel basketball league where when I got back from it, I wrote like a 40-page like essay about it. And like 3 pages in high school is a lot. Yeah. But that was like just like I just couldn't stop, just like, And so when I look back at that stuff now, I still consider that all sort of like pre-art, but there were signs maybe of like a writer's life or something.
It was destiny.
Well, I'm not quite that far.
This is your destiny.
So, were you a Pistons fan then as well? Or?
Yeah. Are you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I for sure was. I mean, I'm 43, so I like the bad boys.
Oh yeah, you remember
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Dennis Rodman. And all of that.
I remember when they got him. Like, and when who's this weirdo?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, I remember when it was all Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace, and those guys.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Around the 2000s.
Both those like incarnations are so good, man. Yeah.
Okay, so the question everyone's dying to know: what is the inspiration behind Birdbox? What came about? What was the process?
At the time of writing it, it was just like the next idea in line. I keep sort of like I have send myself emails now with a list of like, hey, write these 6 books, right? And at the time, Birdbox I had just finished one, and all I had was like an image of a woman traveling down a river, blindfolded with 2 kids, and I knew that they were like fleeing like something that they couldn't look at or something, right? But that's it. That's all I had. I didn't know much more than that. I'm like, well, that's just like a freaky scenario or something. And again, this is 2006, So
2006.
This is I wrote the rough draft in 06.
Yeah, before the happening.
So I'm just like, I finish one and then I start the next one, and then a few pages in, I was like, shit, what are they fleeing? I mean, that's a big part of this story that I started writing, And then you start imagining like all these like just like totally trite things, in this book.
Okay.
And then it struck me that I had I'd had a science teacher in high school. Was it high school? I think high school. That told the class that a man would go mad if he tried to contemplate infinity. And I remember when I was much younger, that really scared me. This teacher telling me you would go mad if you try to contemplate where space ends, right? And I remember that night worrying about that. I remember being like, you know, my family's getting ready for dinner, and I'm like all freaked out. And my mom's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, I don't want to think about where time begins or where space ends. I'm gonna like, you know, I'm gonna go mad, and you guys are gonna have to like visit me somewhere. and then it struck me like, hey, this would be kind of amazing if this woman and these two kids were fleeing like the concept of infinity.
Right.
If they were fleeing from something that they couldn't fathom.
Okay.
And that they weren't allowed to encounter like face to face because it would drive them mad, and that was it. The book wrote itself from there.
Interesting. That's interesting.
It just absolutely exploded from there. It was like, you guys know word count. It was like 4,300 words a day for like a month or something.
I got a random question. Like, I'm sure you've heard people compare this to The Happening. What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, I wrote it in 06. The Happening came out in 08. I saw that movie. And again, I just had a rough draft in 06. I saw that movie, and I'm a huge M. Night fan. I still am. I saw Glass recently, and I loved it. And I just love him, even though, whatever, sometimes he's not so great. But I saw The Happening, and I got really freaked out. You know? I was like...
I wish people could see my face right now.
Oh, initially... we can't.
And I saw it when it came out, and I was like, oh, shoot, man, this is like... But at the time, I think I had 5 novels or something at the time. So I was like, all right, I guess Birdbox, that one's not going to... We're not going to use that one anywhere. It's like this movie that just came out. Yeah. Then I read The Road in the same year, 08.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, man, this is like it too. But substitute like a road for a river. And then this guy walking his kid through the apocalypse, essentially. So there are a couple instances of that in like the past or whatever, and then the more recent one, A Quiet Place. When I went to see that, I was like, I'm like, geez, another one.
I don't see a pattern with these movies that are coming out now.
But I've had this book since 06, so for me, it was like double fold. It was like a sense of like, shoot, man, but also like, well, I know that my aim was pure, I guess. Yeah.
So was any of the material born out of a nightmare that you possibly had?
Just that
about
experience
the end
of
times.
No, I never really. It's gonna sound a little silly, but I almost don't look at Birdbox the book as end times. It feels more like the Twilight Zone's The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. It's all like focused on like one street, one house. It's like, is it end times? There's characters that are like, man, everything's fine out there. You know, there's characters that are like, this is all psychosomatic. The book feels more like a Twilight Zone episode, and the movie is more like an epic or something.
Full on.
Yeah, like
that was a chilling episode, by the way. I remember that as a child and getting really scared of it.
Yeah,
becoming very afraid of that.
Yeah. Speaking of Twilight Zone, they're going to be having a reboot with Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ba-ba-ba-bum.
Looking forward to that.
So, Josh, how do you feel about the success of Birdbox? I mean, 45 million accounts watched Birdbox in its opening week. How do you feel about that?
Man, it was really bizarre. As of the night of the screening on the 21st, well, the night it first came out was like December 21st.
Yeah,
we had like a little screening for friends at this dude's like kind of like this, but a little smaller. It was like a little theater thing that he has access to in Troy somewhere. You know, it holds like 80 people. This is bigger, but whatever. It's not much bigger than this, smaller than this. And as of that night, people were like, you know, is this surreal or whatever? I'm like, I don't know. It's all been so gradual. Again, wrote the book in 06. It gets picked up for publishing in 2012. Universal at first optioned it in 13. Book is published in 14. Netflix. So there's all this like gradual thing. Sandra Bullock gets on board. It wasn't like I wrote a book and then overnight, like now it's here. So I've been abreast of everything that's happening so far.
Yeah.
Movie comes out on the 21st. Allison's my fiance. We drive up north 2 days later.
Congratulations, by the way.
Well, thank you. Hi, Allison. We drive north, like all the way to Marquette, where her sister is. It takes forever. It's a snowstorm. We get there at 5 a.m. and we go to sleep. And when I woke up, my phone was like, I've never seen my phone. I mean, it might as well have been entirely the color red because of how many notifications there were. And I was like, Allison, I think something's going on with that movie. And then, like, we were looking through it and we're like, wait, what is going on? And then the next day, whoa, this is really going on. And the next day, and the next day, and the next day.
Yeah.
So, I don't think Sandra Bullock was, could have been prepared for that, you know, that phenomenon, whatever happened. I don't think Netflix could have been prepared for that. But it was a wave. It felt like I was honestly felt like I was standing in like a wind tunnel, man.
Wow, that's a good metaphor. How much creative input did you have in the creation of Birdbox?
With the movie, zero.
Really?
Like
Zero?
literally zero. Yep, none. Absolutely none. Yeah.
No input at all.
But again, think about it. It was optioned before it came out, and it's my first book to ever come out. Talk about an unknown. And the first book's not even out yet. So I understood right away when Universal optioned it in 13. I understood what was happening. That I was gonna have no say, and I was just gonna hope that it's good. You know, it's like, here, take it away, guys. And I think that being I've been in this band for like 20 years. And it's a similar thing. I write the songs, I bring it to the group, and I don't tell them what to do. They do whatever they want. And sometimes it comes out how you saw, and sometimes it doesn't. So I think that prepared me for that. Yeah. I'm used to writing something and then giving it to someone to do whatever they want with. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't have very many moments of, like horror, like, what are they going to do to my baby? Like, I never thought of it like that at all. I was just like, I don't know, man, let's just hope it's good.
Okay, shout out to Brian Ritson, who says he loves this show.
Oh.
All right.
Hi,
Thank you, Brian.
Hello, Brian.
Thank you. Continue doing it, so
you.
please.
Platonically.
Thank you.
Well, speaking of,
We had to put that in so
shirt.
he knows not to be let on by the show.
We're going to have to send you a shirt real soon, Brian. Thank you very much.
So speaking of babies, there's an article that came out that said that the monster is supposed to look like some kind of worm baby, and Santa
Sounds
So you said you had no input on that. Includes what they wanted the monsters to look.
No,
like.
did you read the book?
I just got the book last night.
The book is staunchly no, there's not even like a shadow outside. Wow. Like nothing, like
no
what?
Are you don't see anything underneath a doorway. You don't see anything outside the glass. Like there's nothing. In fact, there's like theories in here that even if you saw a shadow, you would be driven mad. Or if the gradation of darkness outside the window changed because of them, you would be driven mad because it's experiencing infinity. Mm-hmm. So what does it matter if it's a sliver of it or the shape of it? Yeah, it's still infinity. And so, like the book, whatever. So the movie, no way, I would have nothing to do with something like that.
Demon worm.
But I know, demon worm. But I understand that the script, that was like a dream sequence.
Okay.
Like Mallory was supposed to wake up and be like,
Yeah.
But, yeah. So I saw a dude online had made a figurine of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I wrote him, I'm like, hey, can I buy that? and he was like, I only made one. And I'm like, perfect. Can I buy it?
Yeah. Wonderful.
And hide it? And it's a really good figurine, and the dude's amazing, but I was like, I want that. I'm going to bury it. But I asked him if he could make a figurine, but where the case is just empty. Mm-hmm. And he was like, "Oh, you want to put like your own thing in there?" I'm like, "No, I don't want. No, I want nothing in there forever. I want it to be sealed, empty forever." And he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah." And he sent me 2 of those. Nice. So I got those in my office now.
Demon worm baby. I'm sorry, I'm just stuck on demon worm baby.
Yeah, I'm
it sounds
thinking about
laughable.
that too.
Like somewhere there was also a shot of the guy he drew some of the drawings, and then you can kind of pause it.
That would also not be in the book anywhere.
That's not in the book?
No, again, nothing. No suggestion whatsoever of what they look like in the book whatsoever. Not
So,
even
Josh, how do you feel about the movie overall?
I loved it.
Okay.
I did. I think that there's things I could say about it, like they're more liberal with their blindfolds. I mean, there's just stuff I could say about it. But I really, at some point, made a complete separation that the book is the book, the movie's the movie.
Okay.
And Allison and I when we went to the premiere in LA, I was a little nervous of the prospect of watching it with Sandra Bullock for the first time in my life. So I asked Netflix if we could see it beforehand. And they did. They gave Allison and I and a few others a screening in their office building. And that was wild, because I'd never been to something like that. It was just 10 chairs and the screen, no previews. It's lights go out, movie starts,
Wow.
And I turned to, the book opens with Mallory pretty much telling her kids, we're going on this trip. We're doing it, just like the movie. And I was like, I got the chills right away. I was like, oh my God, this is the book. And I love it, man.
Okay.
To me, it's I don't know how to explain it. I'm just grateful for the whole freaking thing.
Okay.
That's awesome.
I have to ask you this question. Are they planning on doing a prequel story to the movie Bird Box, or a sequel to it because of the success of it?
My instinct tells me they have to or something, right? But I don't know about that yet.
Racing for the safety word.
So
Okay. Oh, Sandra Bullock.
No, that's not the safety word.
Oh, that's not the. Oh,
The new
boy.
safety word is
what?
tennis ball.
Tennis
Oh,
ball.
tennis ball.
Yeah, tennis ball.
The other,
Indeed.
the other follow-up I had to that was with the success of this book-to-film adaptation, were there any other plans of having any other of your books turned into films, or?
Oh, well,
Yeah.
okay. So
Peaked interest?
before Bird Box, the movie came out, there's 2 other books that have been optioned already. If you ask me which ones, I will say tennis ball.
But there are
Tennis
some
ball.
books of yours that may be.
Yes, there's 2 others that are already optioned, and then one is being shopped on Friday. Friday, I may fly to Los Angeles to be a part of that. I don't know that yet. So there was already like a lot of stuff happening before this movie came out, and then the movie came out and was like this bizarre phenomenon. So it's really it's an exciting moment.
Speaking of the phenomenon, you now have like the Bird Box challenge. There was this whole slew of memes.
Oh my God. Social media, guys.
Yeah.
Hashtag Bird Box Challenge.
What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's probably the same as yours, which was like, at first I was like, Allison, this is amazing. People are blindfolded. Wait a minute, what are they doing? Like Allison showed me one of a dude riding a horse. And
Shout out to that guy.
The guy's
that guy.
blindfolded, and the horse was blindfolded.
The horse was blindfolded.
Yeah.
Cruelty.
That is ridiculous.
And I was like, okay, no, wait,
That's
hold on.
animal
This is too much.
cruelty.
And then the dude wrestling an alligator blindfolded.
Whoa, wait a minute.
And then the guy jumps in like the swamp, like blindfolded.
Whoa, wait.
Like, and
That
wrestles
is
an alligator.
ridiculous.
I mean,
I'm
it's
clutching my
totally
pearls.
nuts,
Oh
man.
wow!
Wait a minute.
Wow, that is really
Bird Box
ridiculous.
responsibly, folks.
Wow.
Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, honestly, if you just believe me, because I did some of this when I was writing it, just make a sandwich blindfolded. It'll blow your mind how different it is. You don't need to drive a car,
It's so Mr. Miyagi, wax on, wax off.
One of our other podcast members, she had this theory that Netflix was somehow promoting these memes and the challenge to kind of give them free publicity in a way.
No, but I heard that too,
wow.
but I thought, like, all right, that sounds smart.
Advertising.
Like, I read that as a conspiracy theory at first, like, Netflix is doing it, and I'm like, great, good for them.
Yeah.
For them.
Like the
Smart
Tide Pod
advertising.
challenge.
I don't think it's true, I don't know, but I read that and I was like, yeah, good for them.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Okay, so I had a question. You mentioned about book to movie adaptation. We actually did a podcast on book to movie adaptations. I know you said the movie's the movie and the book is the book. What is your overall feeling about book to movie adaptations? Is the book usually better, or is the movie?
Well, definitely the book, but it's I think that one of the biggest dangers is if you read the book and then immediately watch the movie. Then you're like setting yourself up for a total disaster. Because what's one I did that with The Ritual recently, another horror movie. Did you guys see
Oh
that
yeah,
one?
Oh,
I've seen it.
And then I read the book
good.
like the day before. I mean, and then now we're gonna watch the movie, and then it's like, oh, that's not the same.
And now you're comparing.
Wait a minute, that didn't happen. And it's like, okay, hold on. If I watched A Discovery of Witches. It's like there's a book series, and it's now a TV show. And my girl and I watched it, and I've never read the books. She has, and I just like had fun with it. I'm like, oh, this is great. But she was like, this is different. So I don't know. I think it's very rare that you're gonna get like such like an epic artistic rendering like The Shining or that kind of thing. Or there's even one. You guys ever see that movie Perfume?
Yeah.
That
oh
book
my gosh,
is
yeah.
so good, man.
Look at the aestheticness.
And the movie's great too.
Right.
But like even that falls short of like The Shining thing. It's like that kind of thing. We all kind of turn to that one. I bet you if I didn't bring it up, someone else would have. I mean, it's like we always turn to that adaptation. Well, guess what? There's like a gazillion of them that aren't exactly like that. So to me, it's like I don't know. Like, what about looking at it like not a commercial, but like getting word out about a book?
Yeah.
Well, then your view on the whole movie softens quite a bit, and I'm not just talking about Bird Box. Any movie.
Yeah, overall.
Yeah, because it's bringing attention to like books to begin with. Like here we are talking about the difference of them, and that's kind of awesome too.
Yeah, it's good for the movie because once you watch the movie, it inspires people to go out and read the book.
Yeah.
So that's a kudos to you. It's like, hey, there's a book on this. Oh, great! I'm gonna go check that out. And I couldn't buy one at Barnes and Noble, so whatever.
Same here. Had to call around.
Hashtag sold out.
Hashtag
Indeed.
sold out.
Got a sold out
Indeed.
show. Got a sold out book.
I just want to read the book. Is that so much to ask? I want
I'm
you to
sorry,
read it.
sir. We had about 200 copies in the store. They're all gone.
So
Real-
I would say that's a perk.
Now where
Wow.
to go now?
So, a question I want to ask personally: did you get to meet Sandra Bullock? How was that working with her? Did you get
Yeah,
to
I met her. It was crazy, man.
Sandra
I
Bullock.
We were on
Thumbs
set
up.
in L.A. And we saw the scene where her and Sarah Paulson are in the car flipping over, all that stuff. And it was on this like sound stage, and it was all lit up, like the stage area or the where they were filming, and everywhere else was kind of like in shadow. And I was in the shadow by like the food cart, the whole freaking time, and for like 12 hours. And then at the end of the day, this producer was like, "Hey Josh, I want to introduce you to someone," and I was like, like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna go meet Sandra Bullock! Oh my god!" And then he like kind of like we weaved through everyone, and he brings me out there, and then everyone else sort of like stepped back into that shadowy area, and all of a sudden I'm just meeting Sandra Bullock under these like unfathomably bright lights, and all I could think was like, is it like this for her all the time? I'm like meeting her like on stage under a spotlight, in makeup, in costume. Like it was like, wow, this is like the ideal moment to meet you. It was cool, and she was hilarious.
Awesome.
She was like really warm, obviously like I don't want to say running the room, but just obviously in charge in a warm way.
I can kind
She
of
was
see
Miss
that.
Congeniality.
Yeah.
Oh, right
Was.
there on
She
set.
was like funny. Jonte Rose was like super nice. And he had a few friends with him, and they were all like awesome too. I mean, everyone, Lil Rel, all of them were like really, really nice people. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So then you got to meet a lot of the other cast members and.
Yeah, because before both premieres in LA and New York, I was like me, the screenwriter, the cast, the producers. It's sort of like they're like introduced, like, and here's the book writer, and then they start the movie, right? But everyone walks out first, so we're all like backstage waiting to go out.
Yeah.
And we're all just like goofing around, like talking too much, making jokes, and people are like, "Shh, they're gonna call your names." And I'm like, "What's going on? I can't even believe this is happening right now." Like, someone's telling me and Sandra Bullock and everyone else to be quiet.
Yeah, that's
It's a quiet
gotta be
place.
surreal.
Feel the Birdbox.
So, Josh, I know you're well aware of all the comic book movies. It's an onslaught of comic book movies. Do you have any intentions on doing a comic book movie, perhaps? Because they definitely need some assistance with some more better quality
Roderick
movies.
said that, not us.
I mean, of course, we like Avengers Infinity War, but we need a new vision, a new direction
tell me
for
more
some
about
of
what you're thinking. What do you mean? Like, you don't mean an offshoot of Birdbox. You just mean like if I have ever had an interest of writing something like that? Is that what you mean?
Yes, since you're a great writer, I would think you would want to venture out. Maybe if possibly you wanted to do one, or maybe envision possibly doing a incarnation of a superhero themed
I've never thought of
series.
it. I've never thought of it like
or
that
possibly
before.
small screen adaptation.
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah,
Okay.
my bandmate jokes that Daredevil and Birdbox would obviously work well together. The Daredevil would be like the biggest hero in the world in that scenario, which is a really good idea. I would watch that. I've never really thought of that before, Roderick, but I'm going to after this conversation. Actually,
Good.
So, do you have any favorite movies or any specific genre of movie?
yeah. I mean, I've been on a strict horror diet for like 20 years. It's
Yeah.
been terrible for my skin. Yeah, no, I mean, I went through a run. I turned my back on the genre for like 2 years in my life where I read, I was like 23 or something, and I read like, was kind of ripping through the classics, Hemingway, Fitzgerald, Faulkner, Virginia Woolf, all that. And reading through the classics brought me to Dracula again, because like Dracula's always on the classic list as well, right?
Exactly.
And I read it and I was like, oh my god, I forgot how good horror can be, read it all growing up.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, I'm going to read this other stuff, And then Dracula just sent me like right back into it. Yeah. And I've been there for like 20 years. Yeah.
Maybe a Dracula.
Shout out to Philip Bradley.
Hey, Phil.
Hey.
Checking in with
Third
us.
degree. Thank you, my good friend Phil.
Put it down here at Cool Nerds Unite.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question I have: what advice would you give to young aspiring writers and any young creators out there for the kind of success that you have? Like, any advice at all?
I think that I always worry that when I answer something like this that it ends up sounding a little bit like Tony Robbins or something, but just bear
Tony
with
Robbins.
me. Is that I feel like a real key is to get rid of the words good and bad. And the reason I say that is because I think that a lot of the time, you just need to get through that rough draft first. You have to get through the rough draft first, right? If you want to be an artist, you have to finish your work of art. If you want to be a writer, you need to write a book, right? So it doesn't matter if the rough draft is good or bad. I rewrote from the rough draft of Birdbox in 2006. I think I rewrote like 80 to 90% of it in the year 2010, like from scratch. Not rewrote it, like fixed what existed. Like read the rough draft and was like, I'm gonna try this again. But I would never have tried that again if I didn't write the crappy rough draft first. And that's true of like every, medium. In fact, it's legendary, the books that didn't go through stuff like that. Like I hear that Flowers in the Attic was her first try.
Amazing.
It's
book.
like,
Really?
I know. I'm like, oh,
Amazing book.
now that
So
one is like
controversial, so
legendary.
great.
So
Yeah,
good.
I
So
agree,
good.
100%.
And it's like legendary. And when you go and read it now, knowing that
Yeah.
this was like her, like she just sat down and wrote this, it's a little mind blowing. But if you know that you're going to rewrite, and possibly even from scratch, 90% of what you're writing right now, what does it matter if it's good or bad?
Yeah.
And so the rough draft starts to become like the world's greatest outline for you. And if that sounds like a ton of work, well, it kind of feeds off itself. Meaning, you're like, what do you mean I got to write the book twice? Well, it's not exactly like that. You write it once, and you're so freaking excited that you wrote it, and now you believe you're the kind of person that can write a book, that you attack the rewrite with like an energy you kind of weren't really expecting yourself to have.
Right.
So it starts to like build off itself. It's like turning a machine on, So my advice to a young writer, for sure, is get rid of the words good or bad. Don't worry. Oh, is that character name bad? Oh my God, stop. Should I start here? Just start there. Just go. You're going to change all of this later.
So that just do it.
So go the Nike route. Just do it.
I mean,
Just do it.
yeah, but then I feel like you say that is going to like wash right off someone's like face or something. But if you honestly, like, if you can get yourself to a spot where you honestly aren't judging it to say if it's like never say this is brilliant and never say like, oh my God, just go. Almost like someone else is writing it. And when you're done, you're going to read through it and be like, oh man, yeah, I can do something with this.
Yeah, believe in yourself.
Brilliant.
Yeah, or the process or something. I don't really know, but yeah.
So you heard it here first from Josh Malerman. Just do it. This is the commercial. This is not a commercial for Nike. Just do it. Pick up that pen and just do it. So, pick up that pencil and just draw.
So something I also wanted to touch on is your music and your band, The High Strung.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said you've been together for
20 years,
20
yeah.
years, yeah.
We've been best friends since we were like 11 years old.
Oh.
I have band practice tonight, actually, as you know.
Okay.
I
Thank you for your time, John.
Yeah, no, are you kidding me? This is
Thanks for
amazing.
coming in.
We met when we were about 11 years old. We're now like in our 40s. Derek has a kid. Steven has a kid.
Wow.
Chad, kind of, we don't know. I mean, he's and Mark's married and everything.
Kind of in limbo.
So, yeah, we toured for like something like 6 or 7 years, where we were playing. We didn't live anywhere. We're playing for like maybe 20 people a night. I mean, for 6, 7 years we did this.
Like all over the country? Or?
Yeah. It was unbelievable. We had no apartments. We just like toured. I think we played 250 shows a year for some 6 or 7 years. And I was writing novels in the passenger seat of our tour van during those years. I wrote something like 4 or 5 on that while we were like in the van.
That is amazing.
It was an unbelievable period of time. We weren't making any money. We were getting wasted every single night. You're with your best friends. You like wake up, you're like, oh my God, now we got to go to Iowa City. Oh my God, let's
The American dream.
It was absolutely phenomenal. And I'm like pounding out like a book a month, and we're all like, it was great. And somehow we ended up with a theme song on Showtime.
Yeah.
That The Luck You Got.
Okay.
For that show Shameless, if you've ever seen it. And that was like a really big moment for us. Like again, we still really only played at 20 people a night, which is fine and all glorious. And somehow we're like still, it's unbelievable. We're like still doing this. I don't think that any of us like looked at it that way, but I think that being friends since we were 11, we already went through the whole like, oh my God, I can't stand you. Like when we were in like middle school. So like, whereas if we had met at 27 and started a band, it'd be like, oh God, I won't be around this guy, But we already went through all that. So
That's
here
awesome.
we are.
So would you say that there's a lot of similarities between writing music and writing a book and the way you should attack it artistically?
I mean, I guess so. For me, I kind of always feel like there's like, with writing a book, like there's like a drummer in the room, Like you sit down and it's like, I always imagine this like shirtless lunatic sitting down at the drums behind me. And I'm like, all right, here we go. And then he's like, and I'm like, for like 3 hours a day or whatever. and then I mean, one day I'm gonna turn on and catch him. I'll be like, I knew you were in here with me. But so to me, I think that there's a rhythm to both, and like this, like that's the closest combination, or whatever that I can make. But I think also horror novels and pop songs kind of come from a similar like childish place.
Oh yeah.
There's like an Arrested Development about like loving both these things. Like the Beach Boys to me are almost as like scary as Night of the Living Dead in like their own weird way.
Beach Boys are awesome.
No, I love them.
Wow,
I
what a
absolutely love
comparison. I like them both, actually.
But it makes sense.
I mean, there's something real similar about pop
Yeah.
songs and horror novels to me. There's something like an Arrested Development or something. I mean, think about it.
okay.
Like, what are the Beach Boys singing about? They're like in my room, and this. I mean, it's like this is like not that they're scary, but there's something childish about them. And Brian Wilson especially. There's like the kid in the sandbox, the childish genius, you know. And I mean, think about the Beatles are singing "I Want to Hold Your Hand," and I know that they get more involved after that.
Yeah.
But if you really think about it, not that much more involved. It's not like they're singing Walt Whitman later on, you know. And so there's always been like a similar sort of Arrested Development, like we're playing a song, or we're writing a scary book, or we're making a joke, that kind of thing. And they don't sound anything alike, but they seem to be coming from the same place for me.
Are you interested in doing maybe a movie soundtrack?
Yes. Oh my God, I would love to. When Birdbox was first optioned, the dude who did It, Andres Machete, he was attached to direct it. And I met up with him for lunch, and he was like, hey, what do you think about doing the soundtrack? And I was like, what? Like, to Birdbox? And he's like, yeah. I was like, I was like, who are you looking at right now? And then he said that they were talking to the girl that did Under the Skin, which is like the greatest freaking soundtrack. If you guys don't know it,
Yeah,
it's
I've heard
so
it.
freaky, so freaky.
It's really.
And I was like, okay, no,
very
try to get
eerie, but
her. But if you don't, yeah, I'd love to. So, but then he ended up doing it instead. So that vanished. And then Trent Reznor did the freaking soundtrack.
9 Inch Nails. So we asked this question on a previous podcast. It was more like specifically music related. But what was the first CD or cassette tape or album you remember buying?
Nightmare on My Street is the first one I ever bought, which is DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince doing like a spoof
love
on
that
Nightmare on
song.
Elm Street. Yeah,
That's awesome.
And it's like, and
I remember
that
that.
one really accidentally makes sense for me because it's like talk about pop songs and horror.
Yeah.
I mean it's like a like a playful hip hop guy, spoofing a
raps
horror. Yeah,
Will Smith raps happy.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, he does.
He doesn't have to cuss his
Still
song.
does too.
But I do.
I like that. Rap's happy. That's funny.
I mean, he does.
Yeah, for sure.
The happy rapper.
And how about what was the first concert you remember going to?
What was the Beach Boys? I
Oh,
went with when I
nice.
was 10 years old with my my dad and mom.
Do you remember where it was at?
Yeah, it was Pine Knob.
My first concert was at Pine Knob.
Which one?
The Doobie Brothers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's like a similar first concert. Yeah. You went with your parents too?
Yeah. I remember my mom was working late, so she showed up a little bit later, and like one of the I was maybe like 5 or 6, and I remember it was the first time I ever had a Lunchable. Just bringing it to
I used to
Pine
love
Knob.
those.
Lunchables are the truth.
Hey Josh,
Ham, cheese, and crackers.
just to give you an idea, Justin is a great musician as well.
Oh, yeah, awesome. What do you play?
I play a little bit of everything. I was actually a classical guitar major at Wayne State
Oh,
before
sweet.
I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Music.
You guys didn't see that mic drop.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Boom.
That's great.
Okay, so you ready to wrap up here? Any final questions for Mr. Josh Malerman?
Oh,
Anything
tennis
on the
ball.
Facebook Live?
Yeah, I got a question. For him. Josh, would you be interested in coming back when you have more time? We thank you for your time, but we know time is of the essence. You have a prior engagement. We want you to come back. Are you interested in coming back and doing another podcast?
Yeah, I would
episode?
love to. I'd love to talk to
Are you
guys.
just saying it because you're on Facebook Live?
Shout out to our fans on Facebook Live.
I like this creepy little room we're in. I like the...
Creepy.
Well, thank you. Thanks to our good friend Gavin Soundlord, Amber Marie, Justin, Carol, and Phil. Feeling the beat.
So
And I'm Roderick. I'm your host.
Are you
Check us
though?
out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Listen to us on SoundCloud and iTunes. And remember,
Stay nerdy.
Na, 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 na,